and welcome to episode 8. I am Nicola, I'm the maker behind Mrs S Craft Corner. I'm coming to you from Nottingham, which is in the UK. I live here with my husband and our 2 boys, Oliver who is 10 and Joseph who is 8, and our dog Finn. So welcome. I missed last week. I just wasn't in the mood to podcast. I was enjoying a nice time at the weekend with husband and the boys, just chilling out. But yeah, back again. So I've got a few finished objects for you today. Only really 2 works in progress to have a look at because I've not worked on a lot of things, but then not worked on everything. But obviously having a few finished objects means that those are no longer whips. So what I am wearing today, this is the Cargill sweater by Rebecca from the Crow Bay Knits podcast, and it's got this beautiful dip stitch pattern all over, and the pattern calls for 1 strand of fingering and 1 strand of mohair, which makes it really fluffy and squishy. It's a nice cozy jumper. And as the sun has disappeared and it's really grey out, I wanted something that's like a comfort jumper to put on. I did speak about it a bit more in the pilot episode. I'd have knit either size 3 or 4. Can't remember now. Because it's been a while since I finished it. I'm not sure if the pattern called for a folded collar, but I've done a folded collar anyway, because I like the look of how that sits. But yeah, it's really nice. Sorry, I can tell that it's been a couple of weeks since I last did this. So the first finished object is the baby blanket that I have made for my brother-in-law and his girlfriend and their baby that's due in July. So this is it finished. So after going weeks and weeks without working on it, I did take it in to hospital to finish. Yeah, so it's all finished. So this is the Elmore blanket by TL Yarn Crafts, I believe. As always, I'll link all of the patterns down below. Yeah, you can either get this paid for as a PDF on Ravelry, or she does have it on her blog as a free pattern. It's Tunisian crochet, and it has the Tunisian honeycomb stitch as the border, and then just the Tunisian standard stitch throughout the blanket. I have done it smaller than was specified in the pattern because I didn't chain as many stitches widthwise, and I didn't measure how long it was. I just got to the point where I was like, yeah, that looks like the right size for a baby blanket, and then started doing the border. So I've got like a full ball of wool left, of yarn, because it's acrylic left. It's I want to say it's the Stylecraft Bambino in just the pale grey colour, because the girlfriend said that she wanted just a neutral one because this was before we found out that they knew that they were having a boy, and so I'd asked would they prefer it a gendered colour or something neutral, and she picked neutral, so I played it safe with a nice grey. Yeah, it's a really nice pattern. I hadn't done, because the honeycomb stitch for the border it alternates between a standard stitch and a Tunisian pearl stitch, which I've never done before, but once I watched a tutorial on it, it's really easy to just do. It's a nice mix, I think, between knitting and crochet, that one, because obviously crochet is each stitch worked at as a time, but for the Tunisian you picking a yarn through each stitch along each row and then chaining it back again, so it goes back to one stitch each time. But yeah, that was really enjoyable. I definitely recommend it, the pattern, to other people. Yeah, because I've spoken about it a few times before, I don't really know what else to say. It's a DK weight pattern, and it calls for a 6mm crochet hook, which I did, and it makes a really nice fabric, because I think with the Tunisian crochet it can be quite thick, so even though usually you'd use like a size 4mm for DK, the 6mm is definitely needed for it. I think it'd be too stiff and not something you'd want to wrap your baby in. So that is my first finished object. The next one I have two of, and they are the half and half washcloths from Pearl Soho's. This was the really scrappy one that I was making for Joseph. I cast on a lot less stitches than the pattern calls for. I think the pattern calls for 72. Again, this is a free pattern on their website, so I cast on 42 instead of the 72, just because that's when my tail ran out, and I was using a magic knot ball of the cottons, which is why it's all higgledy-piggledy and meant that I didn't need to sew in loads of ends. And green's his favourite colour, so I did try to pick out most of the greens that I had left over. And you finish it off with an I-cord toggle. So yes, you cast on the large amount of stitches, and it's worked doing short rows. I'm saying this, I bet most people have done the half and half wrap. So each time you go one less stitch, which makes the first triangle, then you knit back and forth along the middle bit a few times to pick up those wraps and turns, and then you start again with a smaller amount of stitches going wider to the top, and then you cast off along the edge and make a little I-cord and sew that in. Yeah, so it's all 100% cotton, DK weight. I want to say I knit it on 3.5 now, I'm not sure. I know that I did it 0.25 smaller or bigger than the pattern called for. I know I didn't use the right one because I couldn't be bothered to go and find one, so I just used what I had to hand. But yeah, so that's that one, and then I made this one for myself. So it is scraps, but I had larger balls. So the white one is all the way through it, and it's like a shiny cotton, which is why I wanted to pair it with another one, because I wasn't sure how the shiny cotton would work as a washcloth. I think that's the wrong side anyway, it's that way around. So yeah, so I've striped it and I've carried the yarn up the edges. Again, same size needle as before, same pattern. This I cast on 52 stitches. Yeah, so I did purpley lilac on one side, and then the orangey yellow pale colour striped on the other sides of both. Because of where you're carrying it up the side, it means that this is properly striped, and then on the other side it's the yellow that's properly striped. But I really like the effect of that. I think it's nice and spring colours. And I'm experimenting. Each one I've sewn the toggle down differently for the little loop, trying to figure out which way I prefer it. And I think this one so far has turned out the best, because on the pattern it tells you to cast off to one stitch and then sew it in, and I felt like that was a really small join. And even though I sew the ends in and it's all knotted in, I still don't trust it as much as these ones. So these are like, I've tried to Kitchener stitch the loop on. So yeah, yeah, they're washcloths. I can actually start using them. I'm sure Joseph will be happy that he's got his done now. I have got Rob asking for one for him, so I'm sure I'll do that soon. It's a really nice, easy, mindless pattern. Yeah, so that is that one. Now these, so on to my next one. Again, they're two the same, but I have posted these on my Instagram. Little shorty socks. So these, as I did, had I started showing these as a whip? I think these were a whip last time. So yeah, so I realised actually, because I've been thinking there's a friend that wants me to teach her how to knit socks. So just going over it in my head, I don't actually cast on 64 stitches. I can't remember where I'd seen it, because it was years ago now, but I always cast on one extra, so I cast on 65 stitches, and then the last stitch that you cast on, you hook it over the first stitch that you cast on and pull it tight before you start knitting, and that helps with the jog that you can sometimes get when you're casting on and joining in the round. But yeah, so but there's 64 stitches all the way around, and I did the 2x2 twisted rib, which I then folded down to make it a folded cuff. Each stripe is 10 rounds per colour. So for the first colour I knit 5, then do the heel flap and heel turn, which is just a slip stitch heel, then back in again, another 5 rounds of the first colour, and then 10 rounds each, going through the gusset decreases to the end. And then the wedge toe that is in the Crazy Sock Lady pattern that I've got, that I use on all my toes since then. Just it sort of curls it round a bit more right at the end rather than it being a straight shape. And these are knit with I think they're colours from the Hobbit colourway collection that Helen of Giddy Yarns dyes. These came from the shawl that I knit as a sample for her that was actually shown on her podcast last week, which is really nice. So the heels, toes and cuffs are the Pebble colourway, which was the main colour of the shawl, and then she did go through all of the Hobbit colourway colours, but I'm not certain which ones I was sent, so I can't be sure, but yeah, just 5 of those that I've then striped down. And I knit those on a 2.25mm needle. I did these on the 32-inch cable of the higher sharps. I just fancy to change, just depends what mood I'm in. And yeah, they're really nice. I have already worn and washed these, so they are clean, but they have been worn once. And then that links on quite nicely to my next one that I literally just finished sewing the ends in for just before filming. Another little pair of shorty socks. You can tell it's coming up to spring and I'm going to be wearing more like where my ankles are out, so I don't need long socks, but I'm going to need some like trainer sock size. Yes, the little shorties. I did these almost identical, apart from for the cuff I did just a normal knit 2 purl 2, which is what I usually use on the cuffs for my socks. But I think I prefer, for the shorty ones anyway, the twisted rib. I don't know, it just seems that little bit neater, and because that bit will be on show if you like turn up your trousers for your ankles being out in spring. But yeah, these, I think the colour for the heels, toes and cuffs on this one was the contrast colour that I got from the Colour of the Month sock set from January from Giddy Yarns that I'd bought for Joseph to make him a scarf, but as he just had a scarf I didn't use the contrast colour for his heels, toes and cuffs, so I've used that on these. And then the other colours, these are Scrappy colours that were left over from my Nora George advent calendar that I had in 2021, I think it was. It must have been, because I had Fibre Fox last year, which is 22, so yeah, Nora George the year before. But I think it does show, because I did knit these on 2.25, the 9-inch circular, but it turned out that, I don't know, can you see? So I'd done 10 stripes again, and it was supposed to end on this colour, but it wasn't quite long enough. And I just think it's really interesting. So both yarns say they are 75 superwash merino, 25% nylon. So in theory, the exact same base. So supposed to be the exact same yardage. And I think you can tell the difference between how much thicker the cuff seams and the heels compared to the main fabric. So it just meant the stitches, like the gauge isn't quite the same. Yeah, so I think it shows the importance of, if it's something that you're wearing that's a bit more form-fitting, like a form-fitting jumper or something, don't just assume that the two yarns, even though they're saying they're the same base, will come up at the exact same gauge, because I needed to do 5 extra rounds on this sock to this sock. And yet they claim to be the same base. Yeah, so that was a bit of yarn chicken at the end though. I literally just managed to have enough yarn to finish off 5 rounds for each of them. Because for that one I didn't have much of that one left, that's why that was just going to be 1 stripe in the sock. Yeah, so that's 2 finished pairs of shorty socks. I did bring, it's not a recent finished object obviously, but this is the wrap that this advent calendar that I made. And it is, let me just look at my phone, I have got it up. So it's the Naughty or Nice wrap by Samantha Van Noy. I'll put a couple of pictures. Yeah. So it's really nice pattern, and she just gives you quite a few different lace patterns, and it's knit on the bias, so you cast on. That wasn't have been where I cast on this other end. So you cast on, and at this end you're increasing, and at this end you decreasing. So even though the stitch count stays the same throughout, it then makes it so it's like diagonal. So this was day 1, and I would have done it all in day order. So I've got loads of these scraps left. And actually, considering how much scraps I do have, so I use just over half, I think, of a 20g mini per section. And it's massive, so you can see some of the colours now that I've put into those socks. Look. But yeah, so how pretty is that? I know that there's a lot of advent calendars out at the minute, so if you were struggling for pattern ideas, I would recommend this one. Ooh. Just try and fold it up now. Yeah, so it looks really lovely. I do. I love that. I don't know. I find it feels very special, which means that then I'm reluctant to wear it just in case I ruin it whilst I'm wearing it. But advent calendars are expensive, so I probably should wear it more often through the winter, though it's now not quite the right season for it. I will start wearing it a bit more next year, I think, just to get the wear out of it. Yeah, so that is that one. Just have a little tea. Yeah, so that is it for my finished objects this week. So that's it, that's quite a few finished objects, isn't it? That's 5 plus the bonus one from before. So first work in progress I will show you. Oh, it's getting tangled up. Is the cumulus top from Petite Knit, Petite Knit I think it is, and it's coming on nicely. I really like this colour. It's a really lovely raspberry colour. So yeah, I was just there where this stitch marker is, about an inch or so, inch and a half from under the arm, and that's how much knitting I've done. I would say that's at least 3 inches worth of knitting just round and round on the body. But yeah, and like I say again, because the weather's not been great, well, the weather was nice for a few days, which is why it got a lot of work, because it's, you want to knit on the things that you want to wear at the weather you're wearing, don't you, sometimes. But yeah, so it got a fair bit of work done, and then it went all grey and cloudy, so then it got put away again. But yeah, really basic pattern. I've just tied the cast on ends together, just it helps show what it's going to look like when it's finished. Oh. And I'm on to my second ball of yarn. Where's that join so I can show you how far? So from the underarm, don't know, can you see? This is where, about there is where the yarn ball changed. And it is the tin line from Sadner's Garn, and it is, if I can find it, 53% cotton, 33% viscose and 14% linen. So it's a nice light airy yarn, perfect for when it's a bit warmer, because you don't really want to be wearing wool or anything, do you, when the sun's shining? It get a bit too hot. Yeah, it's nice enough. It does feel a bit dry to the touch, but not anything that I've got any problems with as I'm knitting it. It's not hurting my hands or tough or anything on the hands. I got this from knit.co.uk when there was a sale on the Sadner's Garn, although it's quite reasonably priced, I think, individually anyway for this one. The only thing I will say is next time I'll make a summer one, I might try a merino cotton blend one. I don't know, I think it's Knitting for Olive do it, and it looks really nice, just because, I don't know if you can see, I feel like it's not quite as forgiving for stitch unevenness as wool is. I mean, it's not been washed or blocked yet, so it might, hopefully it'll all just even out, but I feel like my stitches look a bit uneven compared to when I'm knitting. So if you see, they just sit nicely in a row, there's no, because I feel like if you make a mistake in this yarn, it'll be quite visible. So yeah, I'll finish this, see how I like the fit, and then I might try and order some of the Knitting for Olive merino cotton one, because that looks lovely. Said friend of mine has bought some and she sent me a photo of it in real life, and it looks incredible, and I'm trying my very hardest not to buy it at the minute, because I've got far too much that I've got yarn for and plans for that needs to be knit up before I buy anything new, I think. Yeah, so that is knit on a 3mm needle. I think I've got the cable size that's a bit too small than I'm supposed to be, so it is quite bunchy, so it makes it harder to see how it's going to fit, but yeah, just a nice knit round and round, and then the top, and it's a folded hem, and then around the straps and around the edge of the top will be I-cord. Yeah, So that is that one. Where's this? There we go. And same again in the TK, you can make winter project bag. And then see, I think this is why I like to cast on new things, because I feel like I'm talking about the same project over and over again. And I feel bad for you guys. So this is my Musselburgh by Isolde Teague. And where the little ice cream stitch marker is where I was last time. So I've knit a good few inches, that is, isn't it? Maybe 5 inches. And I think I only stopped then because I started to worry about how far I'd gone, because obviously you knit so many inches from the crown to when you want to start doing the opposite end crown decreases, and I didn't have my tape measure with me, so I panicked and I stopped where I was, and then I've just not picked it up. But I have knit a fair bit on that, and that is knit with the Drops alpaca, which is a 4-ply yarn, just in the medium grey. I wouldn't say medium grey mix because that's not quite a flat colour, is it? And I am knitting it on. Oh, it's not got it on. It's not got it on. I believe it's 3mm needle, 12-inch. And I think they're Addy lace needles. But yeah, so plodding along on that. And you will tell I've only been in the mood for really basic knitting because I don't have any work on my stone crop, and it'll be 2 weeks tomorrow since I last recorded, and I've not knit a single stitch on it because I've wanted really mindless stuff. Yeah, so that is everything that I've been working on since the last time we spoke. Yeah, I don't really know. I feel like I do want to cast on something else, and I probably will do another washcloth for Rob at the very least to get those done. So we have one each. I've got lots of sock sets here, so I might cast on the pumpkin pie one from Camel's Yarn at some point. But yeah, so that is everything for my making since last time. Yeah, so for live stuff, we managed to see some friends last weekend. We went to the pub and the kids got to play outside for a bit, so that was really nice. Not a lot else to say really. Let me know if you've been up to anything exciting recently, if you've got any plans. Has anyone else bought their yarn advent calendars yet, if you're getting one? I did notice there was, who was it? Must have been Ali from Little Drops of Wonderful. She showed on her last podcast an advent by, I want to say, Green Lampkin Yarns. And so what she's doing is she's releasing 3 colours every month of the advent calendar, so it's like a monthly subscription. And you get them every month so that you put them away ready for the start of December, and I thought that was a really good option, you know, because obviously they are a fair amount of money. That's a good way if you're needing to spread it out a bit more than, because even the instalments that some people do, it's only 3 monthly, isn't it? So that's still like a big chunk. So that way is quite nice to spread the cost if you're wanting to join in but not wanting to set out a large amount of money all in one go. Yeah, so thank you for joining me today. Sorry that I've been really awkward. I was just very conscious of the fact that I haven't podcasted for a while. I've got a fair few things that I needed to show you and socks I want to wear, and obviously I'm trying to hold on to those until I get to show you guys. Yeah, I was thinking I was going to switch to 2 weekly rather than every week, just so that it does give me a bit of chance to build up stuff in between, but we'll see, just because this does feel really awkward having left it for so long. But yeah, let me know if there's anything special you want me to talk about on the next one, or any questions or anything you want me to answer. I hope you have a really lovely weekend and take care. Bye.